GameFreak programmer and director Masayuki Onoue recently spoke about how things are going down at GameFreak, how they have their two development teams and what's currently getting priority. And it really sent a bit of a freakout across the interwebs this morning because Mr. Onoue revealed that right now GameFreak is prioritizing the Gear Project team, which is the team that is focusing on new IP and things other than Pokemon. Now we're going to get into all the details in some of his quotes and what they might mean, but before we do, I want to point out, Gabe, that this in no way means that Game Freak is shifting away from Pokemon. In fact, if you read through the entire article, which is something I think a lot of the worriers did not do, you'll see that the main goal here is to bring creativity and inspiration to the Pokemon team so that they are more excited and refreshed when developing future titles.
I guess the verbiage was just what people had a little bit of an issue with. The fact that they are calling the team that is working on Town Team 1. I feel like maybe that's what the issue was with people. Like you said, if people read through the entire article, this is probably a good thing, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure. And it's not in any way saying like, oh, Pokemon is done, or like, oh, we're not putting as much time or effort into Pokemon. It's that currently Team 1 is focused on other projects, and Team 2 is all systems go on Pokemon. And they mentioned that Team 1 has had more experience with other platforms, and so they have a broad sense of how things run and work and ideas, and that Onoue himself has gone over to Team 1 and has brought back exciting ideas and new creative thoughts to Team 2. You also have to remember that Sword and Shield are probably close to wrapping, and so it would only make sense that they have emphasis and focus on new projects.
Yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense. For me, I'm a little bit more not excited for Town than Pokemon, right? Because Pokemon's going to be amazing. We know that. And it's a known commodity. The unknown of Town is what has me incredibly intrigued. I'm way more intrigued by Town than Pokemon. I'll say that. And we know very little about the game. We know that it's coming this year at some point. But other than that, you even have a little bit of a hypothesis that I find incredibly interesting about Town.
Yeah, so they don't call out Town specifically. Gear Project has worked on Giga Wrecker. Yeah, that port to Switch, and they are working on Town. Onoue doesn't call out Town specifically, but he does mention that 2019 is a packed year. He says, in terms of the number of titles we are releasing this year, it's happened coincidentally. It's not like we're trying to put everything together in 2019. It just happened, which to me indicates that, yeah, Town is on track to release this year. Now, that lends me to believe that Town is probably an eShop title. It could be retail. It could be a full-price game. But given that they're going to have the Giga Wrecker port, Pokemon Sword and Shield, and Town all in 2019, and given Nintendo's slate as well, and the fact that it seems like they're going to slot this in somewhere, I really think that Town is probably going to be a smaller eShop joint.
Would that bother you at all?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the idea of Game Freak doing something big, bold, creative, and console AAA $60 quality that isn't called Pokemon is very exciting. At the same time, some of our favorite Nintendo Switch titles, especially this year, have been eShop adventures. Steam World Quest, Katana Zero, Ape Out. There's no reason you can't create a spectacular quality experience that sells for $20-$30 on the eShop, and maybe a smaller scope and time-wise adventure doesn't have to mean a lowering in quality or a lowering in fun. Maybe there is more creative burst in something that only needs to encompass, a $20 or $30 value versus stretching that across a whole $60 game. I mean, you can play both sides of this, right? You can say, oh, here are all the negatives of it's going to be smaller in scope, it's not going to have as much development dollars or development time, but I think in terms of another RPG that sits aside Pokemon this year, maybe it does work out to have one be a little bit cheaper and a little bit smaller.
I know you didn't play it as much, Zach, but a game that I'm thinking about could be similar in both scope, size, and just overall release structure is Way of the Sushi Striker. Mm-hmm. That was available in retail, but it was, eShop for a lot of people, and it wasn't full price. I think it was $50, something like that. It wasn't quite 20, but it wasn't 60 either. Somewhere in the middle, and that's what I am starting to think Town might be, and I'd be really happy with that if that ends up being the case. They can have the cartridge version for people that really love physical, and I feel for like Nintendo exclusives like this from Game Freak, it deserves it. Giga isn't gonna have like. That's a Steam game originally. They ported it over fine. But for this, it seems like more emphasis was put on it. It was in a Direct. They had to focus on a Direct for a little while at least. So that's what I'm hoping. I hope it's similar to size in Sushi Striker. I like that game.
Well, I will say I don't think that Gear Project has put out a total winner as of yet. So I'm really excited to see if Town can be sort of their big coming out moment as, wow, this is another awesome caliber game to sit alongside Pokemon. And a lot of people were upset about the $50 price point of Sushi Striker, so I sure hope that this isn't $50 if it is to be eShop. That game now is on sale very often around $20.
Sure.
But, they say that Team 1 is fully dedicated to Gear Project, while Team 2 is for the Pokemon operation. He says, we are always trying to create something that is equally exciting or more exciting than Pokemon. And again, not to have any misinterpretation, this isn't meaning that Pokemon is boring or Pokemon is, losing their attention. It just means that they are constantly trying to evolve and then utilize that new energy or those new techniques to bring back to Pokemon. It does have me thinking that this Pokemon game is going to be very standard, and perhaps the next one, for better or worse, is where we'll see the true big steps. And that is why Town could be insanely intriguing, because maybe it provides a hint towards the future of ideas or concepts or things that they are just starting to brainstorm and work on that could be implemented into the Pokemon franchise that are a little bit more outside the box, that wouldn't fit for what Nintendo, Pokemon Company, and Game Freak want to create with Gen 8 and Sword and Shield, but maybe lend themselves to a future Pokemon project.
I feel like just as creative people, right? If you're making these video games that you've been making Pokemon games for a very long time, like you want to do something a little bit different. You want to flex whatever other muscles you have. Maybe you want to do something completely different structurally, and obviously look-wise, it's very different than what Pokemon functions like. So I think it's cool, right, for teams like this to be able to let their creativity out in some ways, and like you mentioned, it does end up coming back full circle and possibly inspiring whatever comes next for the Pokemon team over at Game Freak.
Yeah, and I really hope that Town is successful. I hope it's awesome. I was surprised to see a substantial amount of backlash talking about, oh gosh, no wonder Pokemon Sword and Shield looks like it does. No wonder it hasn't taken the big steps forward. And obviously different components and different pockets of the internet come out on different days. So maybe this is just the angry force that's out and the defense force will be out tomorrow. I don't know. But if that is to be sort of the general case, one, Sword and Shield has its work cut out for it at E3, and two, it would be really great then if Town was a winner. I hope that both are not super standard affairs, and they talk so much, Onue talks so much about the energy of Team 1, well, let's see it. And it's exciting that we're going to get to play this year. It has gone away, just like many other Nintendo games, Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion 3, things that have not been mentioned since, but it really seems like it's coming, and to me, the lineup that they have, it would be hard-pressed to fit another $60 RPG in that fall season. So this being maybe an eShop game.
December? Xenoblade, right? That did well then.
Yeah, just Pokemon and then like 2 Game Freaks back-to-back.
And the other thing I was going to ask you, before I forget, what do you think the name of the game is? Because it's Town.
I think it's Town.
It's a working title. They were sure to call it that. You think that's what they stick with?
I feel like it sticks.
Okay.
Or maybe the reason that they're not calling it out specifically is because it does have a different name or a more complicated title at this point. But I think the good news is we are probably most likely seeing this game this year and getting to play it hopefully at E3. So that'll be an exciting reveal, an exciting moment to find out what exactly Town is like. We did get some gameplay. It's hard to really tell and suss out exactly what it is and the size and the scope. But hey, what do you think about Town being an eShop title that releases this year? And how do you feel about Game Freak having 2 teams and really prioritizing that creativity? I think this is absolutely a positive thing. There is no way about this that reads negatively to me. I think the title can be a little bit off-putting of that, hey, Game Freak is prioritizing new projects over Pokemon, but once you dig further, it's only to bolster the Pokemon franchise. So fear not, hardcore fans, your beloved Pokemon are not getting shafted. They are actually, hopefully, getting improved and really building towards better experiences in the future. What that means for Sword and Shield, who knows? But we'll find out very soon at E3, which is now just a couple of weeks away. So give us your take in the comments down below. Make sure that like button if you enjoyed this video and are pumped for Town or Pokemon Sword and Shield, or as in our case, both games. Until then, though, everybody, thanks again for watching. For myself and Gabe, SwitchForce out.